Hey, Footclan, want to remind you about jointhefoot.com. This is the place you can go to get in deeper with the fantasy footballers. You get access to those forums. You get an extra show every week. You get our flex rankings, all sorts of crazy, kooky things with the fantasy footballers at jointhefoot.com.
Hey, this is Emmanuel Sanders, running back from the Detroit Lions, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Playdraft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome back to the show. Oh, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. It was a great night.
It's going to be a kooky adventure.
I hope everyone had a good night like me. What a time to be alive.
Oh, the trolling has already begun this morning. And
Jason has thrown his microphone away from his face. He has left the conversation.
I quit the show.
We have great fantasy football stories today. The beauty of fantasy football is how intriguing last night's game became for many an owner named Jason and Mike. We talked about this on the show. Jason and Mike were facing off. Jason had his entire league of record future in the hands of the Tennessee Titans defense.
Never a position you want to be in.
The position you don't want to be in is the fate of your fantasy future in weak little baby hands Jack Doyle. Well, I don't know what the deal is with that guy. Can't hold on to a football. I saw him dropping my season.
Baby. Do you see Brooks' face over there? No, Brooks is like, that's intense.
With the almost 2 fumbles? Come on, man.
Did the second one count?
No.
Oh.
So he fumbled once and he's baby hands.
And drops.
No, he had a bunch of drops. He played poorly. The moral of the story.
It's like the Burger King. I've got these small hands.
Yeah.
I mean, the football just looks gigantic in his weak baby hands.
The end of this story is Jason lost.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm so upset.
Not yet. What are you talking about? You won. Not only did I lose by 2 points in a game where so many things went wrong, but then after that game, you point out to me and you give me a message and upload the image that shows me that the game I didn't even remotely check on since yesterday,
the Dynasty.
Middle of the day in our Dynasty League, where apparently I was going head-to-head with Brooks, and I walloped them. I had already won. You put the picture up there that says, I lost? How did I lose? Because all I needed was 5 points from C.J. Anderson and T.Y. Hilton combined.
Let's check in with Brooks to see the status of that game.
Was it the
Brooks, Judge? Judge, what's your verdict?
He's trying to get
I win.
Yeah.
Barring stat corrections.
It was a stupid night.
Well, so let's talk over the game. T.Y. Hilton, massive letdown.
Yes.
I thought he was going to have a great game.
Cooped in his big boy pants.
He certainly did. Jacoby Brissett came out, was looking solid. Dante Moncrief had a pretty strong game. Yes, he dropped the touchdown. It would have been a great catch if he pulled it in, but
would have just been a regular catch.
No, I'm going to say it was upper echelon catch.
Yes. I mean, this was you turn over the shoulder, the ball is there, and your
fingertips.
You're extended.
Yeah.
So it would have been
Larry Fitzgerald would have made it.
Yeah, here we go again, comparing these guys to Hall of Fame level. Larry Fitzgerald.
Just saying.
But Moncrief hasn't looked that good in forever. Brissett had poise. He was being accurate. And then the Titans start blitzing, and everything fell apart for Jacoby Brissett. Meanwhile, T.Y. Hilton does essentially nothing. Baby hands Jack Doyle is dropping passes all over the place.
Ryan Suckup, 5 for 5 field goals and 3 extra points.
Unbelievable.
18 points in our league of record scoring.
Unbelievable.
Which won the game for somebody who was down by 15 and had no chance of winning, but Ryan Suckup comes out, and it's just that perfect game script for a kicker. You saw some, Derrick Henry, the huge 72-yard throwaway run at the end of the game probably affected a lot of matchups if he was in there. And
DeMarco Murray finally had himself a game.
He was on blast. I mean, I put him on blast yesterday morning. I said, if you do not have a normal game here, I would be out on DeMarco Murray rest of the season.
And you know what? I would trade him immediately.
I would not. I would certainly not.
DeMarco Murray He doesn't look like DeMarco Murray from last year. He is in a full timeshare with Derrick Henry.
He has Arizona, San Francisco, Los Angeles, the Rams, that is, in the season. Tough matchup after next week. Next week he has Cleveland.
I'm taking this big game. He was 12 for 40, and he's still the pass catching running back, yes, but I'm trying to move him if I can.
Well, if you got him, I'll entertain some offers.
Fair.
I think he's a little bit hobbled still from his hamstring. He doesn't look quite the same, so maybe that's what you're seeing. But when I compare him to Henry, he is the clear better player. I think they were taking it a little bit easy on him and on Mariota. They needed both those players to get the win, but they were also limiting what they were going to allow them to do. I think rest of season, DeMarco Murray gets it going. I really believe that.
All right, today's show is the Waiver Show. So we're going to break down your waiver pickups for Week 7 now. We're in Week 7, guys. How did that happen?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Beating
Jason. It is fun.
When you're beating Jason.
Yes.
I will say this. I mean, I wanted to come in and be, I'm so sad I lost. And it does. It sucks. Two really tough beats. But I'm still having a blast. I mean, I enjoyed that game last night more than any game I've watched this whole year. Every play was exhilarating, and fantasy football is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and keep playing.
Is that your official position?
I am down on. I am absolutely hand in hand with fantasy football.
Every drop back from Jacoby Brissett, I was having a mini panic attack.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. All right, on Twitter, you can find us at the FF Ballers. On YouTube, we're over there. You can see Jason's misery and joy intertwined on YouTube. The Fantasy Footballers.
Very bipolar man.
Yeah, the fantasyfootballers.com is the website. And the community, as Mike mentioned to open the show, is jointhefoot.com. So we'd love to have you come over there, hang out with all of the official Foot Clan at jointhefoot.com. We've talked about Monday night, so I'm going to jump into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
A very impatient Mike McCarthy during his press conference, revealed that Aaron Rodgers needs surgery on the broken collarbone. It's his right collarbone. This is different than last time where it was his left, it was his non-throwing shoulder. This most assuredly means Rodgers is going to miss the remainder of the season. There were rumors. I made one on the show about Tony Romo. There was a lot of talk about Colin Kaepernick. Those have been put to bed in the most terse of terms by Mike McCarthy, who said, look, I have 3 years invested in Brett Hundley. I have 2 years invested in their other backup.
Except he said it far more aggressively.
Yeah.
He said it was the official kibosh.
I mean, you have to, like he said, there's time. Hundley knows the system. He's the best guy for this job right now. I mean, you would have to change everything if you tried to lure Tony Romo out of retirement.
I promise you the Packers are better with Tony Romo. Tony Romo coming in and not even getting an offense out there, they would be a better team.
I have to agree, and that's why a team like
I disagree.
That's why a team like Miami, Matt Moore's been in that system. They just bring in Jay Cutler. Jay
Cutler's been in that system.
Here's the reality. Okay, tell me this. Maybe Brett Hundley's better for this system. Who has a better chance of winning them a Super Bowl? Tony Romo or Brett Hundley?
Neither.
Okay, but if you had to handicap it, if you had to say who could win, you have to pick one to lead you to a Super Bowl win, because that is kind of the goal of football.
I would still say Hundley.
You liar!
Tony Romo is not. He's been out of football.
Let's throw that.
He is not trained for football right now.
Let's throw that on Twitter, Brooks. Let's throw that poll up on Twitter. See what the people think. Dirk Cutter confirmed Jameis Winston has a sprained AC joint. I was reading this morning that Winston's not expected to throw until late into the week to give that his shoulder time to heal.
Did anyone else get the impression from Hard Knocks and other interviews that I don't feel like Dirk Cutter likes Jameis Winston?
No, I do not have that impression.
No?
No, I think he recognizes, that Winston is the best option there. He's I think he has so much ceiling left. Jameis Winston does.
Yes, he does. But it's mental for Jameis right now.
Yeah,
and
it's physical. He's hurt.
Well, I'm saying like his ceiling is being capped by making bad mistakes and not processing the information quickly enough and accurately enough.
Agreed. And just he can lean on the physicality right now. Trevor Siemian is going to play in Week 7, minor injury. Case Keenum's going to remain the starting quarterback for Minnesota for Week 7. Bridgewater, they're saying they're going to bring him off the pup.
Teddy B!
But just for fantasy owners, those that 2 quarterback leagues, those looking for, you know.
You got to pick him up.
You do think that?
Yeah. Yes.
If
you're in a 2 quarterback league, you need to pick him up immediately.
Tony Romo has played more recently than Teddy Bridgewater.
That's fine. But Tony Romo has a job.
I know, but you just made the argument about being ready to play and all of those things. Bridgewater's never really been a fantasy-relevant player. I'm just
knowing
asking
the system.
I'm asking the question.
In Teddy Bridgewater, I think that before the year's done, Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback for the Vikings.
I agree with that. So, I mean, not every 2 quarterback league you would need to pick him up right now. It's going to still be, a month before he's able to play.
Would you drop Sam Bradford for Teddy Bridgewater based on that estimate of the situation?
I probably would not because of you. I mean, you got to play the game of probability. While I still believe it's Bridgewater, there is the world where Sam Bradford heals up and comes back. I mean, you can't ignore that. But if you're into 2 quarterback, I mean, you got to pick up Beathard. I would probably pick up Matt Moore. I'm just saying, like, if you're in a 2 quarterback league,
if it's
every
one of those deep,
viable quarterback is going to be rostered.
Yeah, I would say if it's one of those deep bench leagues, certainly a 2 quarterback dynasty, some of those type of guys will still be out there.
In a dynasty, he's already owned.
Probably.
Golden Tate's expected to miss a few weeks with the shoulder injury. I think that was a surprise. I think we didn't think it would be that long. You have to look where. Marvin Jones. I mean, they're on bye this week.
They're on the bye week right now.
They're on bye. They come back with a hard matchup, but Marvin Jones would be the guy.
He's kind of a sneaky, maybe free waiver pickup because of the bye week. Nobody's, if people aren't aware of the Golden Tate situation. Emmanuel Sanders, sprained ankle, will miss at least Week 7. That's probably good news. I mean, a sprained ankle is better than what it looked like. Robert Turbin left with a left elbow injury. We're thinking maybe Robert Turbin's arm is I don't know.
In
bad shape.
It was just kind of nasty looking. It's certainly dislocated. We've seen players be able to come back after like a week off, but it really depends. We're going to find out more information this week as to the severity. I expect him to miss a couple weeks.
To the end, we're talking about Marvin Jones. Kenny Galladay's still not practicing. Just for those of you tracking that situation, wondering if he might capitalize on that, we'll have to follow up. Ezekiel Elliott. What do we give? What kind of advice can you give right now with this situation? I mean, it is a legal conundrum.
Yeah, exactly. You have to at this point, if they aren't already rostered, which they probably are, but Darren McFadden, Alfred Morris are both worth picking up. I still rank them Darren McFadden, Alfred Morris. The NFLPA is pushing for a decision quickly, which allegedly is later on today, so you may know this before your waivers process. And the reason they're doing that is because technically, like, the rosters freeze, so to speak, for NFL teams, so they need to know if Elliott is going to be on their roster or not this week.
We will tweet out any information and news about Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, after this show goes up, at the FF Ballers on Twitter. We'll keep you posted.
And
it's a fluid situation.
It's just gut call at this point, but what does your gut say? Is the
my
suspension hold, or is he back?
My gut says he plays this week.
Yeah, I think he plays this week and then will be suspended after this week.
What's your gut, Mike?
My gut is that his suspension will stick this time.
Okay. Well, we're going to move right into the waivers. A lot of names to talk about. Let's do it right now.
Put me in, coach.
Love the first name on our wide receiver waiver board here. He might be owned.
He's probably owned, but if he's not, must pick up.
Sterling Shepard. 52% owned is the number that I have. Is that Yahoo or ESPN, Brooks? Is that Yahoo?
Yes.
That's Yahoo.
Now, is he?
He was out, obviously, with the ankle in Week 6, and they have Seattle this week.
Say he's
and then
got
a bye
Seattle,
week.
then a bye. He really is a must pick up for you.
I think
He's
knowing
an absolute
he's
must
a
pick up for me
must
because
pick
I
up.
think when he comes back, let's say you have to hold on to him for 2 weeks, and he doesn't play against Seattle. They want him to get the extra rest. He doesn't come back until after the bye.
That's what I would expect.
And I think that's pretty likely. I mean, if I was the Giants, that's what I would be doing to make sure you don't re-aggravate this ankle. Once he comes back, I think you're looking at a guy that should be a wide receiver 2 week in, week out going forward. And, a guy that's going to play every single week on your lineup rest of the season. And when you get the rare opportunity to grab that off of waivers, I would do that.
He was already 7-2, 7-5. Those were his reception totals before the injury. He was a player that I think we had talked about being rosterable regardless, and now you're putting him in that role. No other wide receiver there stood up in any way.
You're likely not. He's just going to sit on your bench for 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got a position where you're 2-4 and you have to get wins now and you've got a short bench, then no, this wouldn't apply to you as an absolute must pickup because you absolutely must win this week and next week and just always be fighting. But in general, for most teams, I think he's going to be worth the hold.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. John Brown, though. John Brown is one of the major waiver wire pickups this week. 3 for 63 and a touchdown. The Cardinals' offense found something with Adrian Peterson this week. Changes the whole run-pass equation. Changes the fact that the defense cannot sit back and just wait for Chris Johnson to run it into a three-man front. You have to pull your linebackers up. You have to make the defense think. And now John Brown had another nice game. Has the Rams and then the bye and then San Francisco. Mike, would you be more likely to pick up John Brown than you would be Sterling Shepard?
I would. Okay. Just because of the playability, I know I can use him this week, and then he's a great play against San Francisco.
I think my favorite kind of cursory ad right now, if you're sitting, 4-2, you're sitting okay, you want to take a shot on somebody, I like picking up Josh Doxson. Josh Doxson, yes, he only had one more reception this week, but Jay Gruden's come out and said they need to get him more involved, get him more snaps. And the fact is, the other wide receivers there are not succeeding to the degree that they need to be. Terrell Pryor, Jamison Crowder, you're not getting what you need for that offense to be prolific. This is a second-year guy, and I would take a cursory out on him, especially, in a league where I was hurting at wide receiver and wanted to be able to make a run at the end.
Another guy very similar to that, if you're in that same position, I would say is Juju Smith-Schuster. He looks to be getting more and more involved, talented rookie for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is another guy that I would take a look at. Now, if you need to start now and you're needing to go deeper, one of the guys I like at wide receiver the most is actually Benny Fowler. Remember him in week 1? Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, whoa, 2 touchdowns. He's must pick up, right? And we're like, no, of course not, because they throw the ball to 2 wide receivers. Well, Emmanuel Sanders is definitely missing this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if he misses
hobbled
multiple weeks. Benny Fowler's just by necessity going to need to be involved. So I think he is a flex-worthy start this week.
My favorite this week's start is Marquise Lee.
That's the name I was going to bring
against
up.
Indianapolis, 10 targets last week, 5 for 83, had a rushing attempt, and Indianapolis, we're going to talk about them later at the stream of the week. They give it up to all fantasy players pretty much. And so I think that game, Marquise Lee, I like the Benny Fowler talk. Juju's more of a let's wait and see what happens. Can that offense get it together? Is Martavis Bryant going to be out? Is there any other names you want to bring up? Another probably maybe owned is Nelson Aguilar. Do you believe in his predictability?
No, but he's continuing to get it done. Carson Wentz is continuing to get it done. So he's worth the pickup.
I've been changing on Aguilar. I'm so down on him from how he looked rookie year and some of the problems he's had that I think it's been seeping into my analysis of him this year unfairly, because he has looked pretty good this year and he's performed, and it appears he's coming into the wide receiver 2 role. Like he is, I think he's established himself. It's not, okay, is Torrey Smith going to be the wide receiver 2 this game, or is it Aguilar? I think Aguilar is the wide receiver 2. Now, that still could be the 3rd in targets because of Zach Ertz, but I believe Nelson Aguilar, if he's out there, he's worth picking up, and I think you got to start giving him the respect of possibly starting him in good matchups, which right now Carson Wentz is saying every matchup's a good matchup.
Hey. The last name hold on, Brooks. The last name I want to throw out is Taylor Gabriel. It didn't really work out last week, only 4 for 39, but he gets to take on the Patriots, and the Patriots bleed fantasy points to quarterbacks, to wide receivers. So with all
they
those
hand
names,
them out when you go to that stadium.
Yeah.
With the program, you get like 6 fantasy points.
So let's talk Fab real quick. on these guys.
It's harder to talk fab. You got percentage based then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But these guys, no one. I think John Brown, and I would agree Sterling Shepard's worth the add. It's just you have to be in the right situation to add Shepard. So those are the higher price. Yeah.
Over 10% of your budget on those guys.
So you would go 10 plus on Shepard?
On both of those.
Okay. And on Brown?
I would not on Brown. Brown could just as easily next week. I mean, for all we know, this week he could end up not practicing. He's just too much of a variable for me. I wouldn't go 10% on him. I'd spend a couple bucks.
So, yeah, I'm with Jason. I would be more aggressive on Brown. These other guys that we're talking about, though, it's certainly nothing more than just a couple dollars. There's no real electric standouts from the wide
everybody
receiver.
I gotta
get this guy.
Everybody that we named, there were other guys that are in basically the same tier.
Yeah,
so
like
it's like
Jermaine Kearse.
Just order
you need
them.
that article to come out. Electric standouts.
Yeah, order them. In your waiver pickups, the order that you like them, but don't overspend.
Brooks, you were going to speak.
Yeah, half PPR. Take a guess what wide receiver Nelson Aguilar is so far this year.
Oh, and a half point?
He's got touchdowns and big plays.
Top 18?
24.
15.
Okay.
Whew.
All right.
There you go. That's what I'm
After
saying.
6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's scoring. That helps.
If
how many more
touchdowns?
touchdowns?
If Carson Wentz has truly turned the corner, and he's a 35 touchdown type of yearly quarterback, then Nelson Aguilar will absolutely be a valuable wide receiver. So it really comes down to what do you believe in Carson Wentz? Because you can't really talk up Carson Wentz and talk down Nelson Aguilar at the same time. Those two things just would have a really hard time mashing. Also,
like monsters.
Right, the monster
like
mash.
Potatoes.
It's October. Hey, before we talk about the running backs, the always most important position for your waiver pickups, want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction. Pristine Auction, if you're new to the show, listen, they are an incredible website. They're an auction site to find signed, authentic signatures on sports memorabilia. We've got stuff all around the studio. Every jersey you see on the wall, the helmet on the desk, we get it all from Pristine Auction.
I did a little browsing after I traded for Carson Wentz. I went on to Pristine. They had a signed jersey. They had 3 or 4 signed helmets from Carson Wentz. Thought about putting a little,
Little bidski?
little bidski
Yeah,
on those.
go like get your whole team. Go to your get your fantasy roster up on the wall. Commemorate, especially if you've got a championship looming. It's completely free to bid. Doesn't cost you anything. Sign up with the account. Make sure you tell them that you heard about them from the Fantasy Footballers. You can get signed jerseys for $40, $50. You don't pay unless you win. So check them out. PRISTINE auction.com.
We also want to thank today's sponsor, a new one, but a very valuable one. Filter Easy. That's filtereasy.com. Look, this is not a complicated sell, okay? There are things in my life I don't want to do. One of the things I don't want to do is to go and to buy an air filter for my air conditioner and then have to bring it home and install it and do that whole process and then remember that I need to change it, etc. And we could talk all about like health.
Remember the size.
Remember the size. Look, the health benefits, they're there. We spend 90% of our time indoors where you have all the pollutants, which is actually worse than outside. But for me, this is all about convenience. And the number one problem that everybody has is forgetting to change your air filter. They make that simple. I've had this experience with them already. You just sign up, they just show up, and then you just install them. And then when you need them again, they show up again. It's very, very easy. And so, look, you save money on your air conditioning costs when you change filters regularly. You get started today. FilterEasy.com is offering all Fantasy Footballers listeners their first delivery of a standard 1-inch air filter for free with free shipping. Never forget to change your air filter again and visit FilterEasy.com/fantasy or enter the promo code FANTASY on the homepage. It's easy. It's simple. Let's talk about some running backs.
Not as easy.
Not as simple.
No. So the wide variation between which of these guys will be owned and not owned in every league. This is your weekly reminder. Check for Alfred Morris, Darren McFadden. If they're out there, pick them up for the lottery ticket.
Yeah, because 6 games. I mean, it's not a teeny suspension.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darren McFadden, when he was running behind that line a couple years ago,
it's a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, he was great. So,
what?
Let me ask you a question. And we don't know what the results of all this legal stuff is going to be. But my argument in the beginning of the season was that Zeke should just get it out of the way because you don't risk the end of the season. Do you think that the Cowboys' record is any different if Zeke had taken off this first set of games? They lost to the Packers. They beat the Cardinals. They lost bad to the Broncos. They lost to the Rams.
I mean,
it's a good question.
Yeah, it certainly is a good question.
I just wonder when I look at what has taken place.
Yeah, I don't think that's the
They beat the Giants. I mean,
but that's not the thing for Zeke. I mean,
no,
he's
I understand.
He's got a point to prove for his personal life.
Yeah, and obviously if he, whatever the case may be, you're going to fight it if you believe you're innocent. It's going to hurt them a lot more now when they're fighting for that division with Philadelphia if he ends up being suspended.
All right, so running backs that are on the waivers, there's 4 or 5 guys to me that I would really like to pick up this week.
You got it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that I think are worth picking up. My favorite pickup is really hard to tell. Let's talk in categories here. Well, I'm just saying it because I love
my
Marlon
favorite
Mack.
guy is
I love Marlon Mack. He looked great last night, but didn't get involved. Didn't get the work. Chuck Pagano talking out of both sides of his mouth. He needs to get the ball more. Oh, he's a rookie. He's not going to get the ball more. And you saw he didn't get involved. But this is at least a 2-back system. They're not overworking Frank Gore this year. And if Robert Turbin is out, he will be involved because he has to be, not because the coaching staff wants him to be. But when he's out there, he clearly, to me, looks like the best running back.
There was a play last night that I thought it was Marlon Mack, and it was Gore.
Oh,
Gore came out like a rocket.
Yeah, he looked fast.
I have to disagree with Mack being anywhere near the top of this list personally because the offense right now, the unpredictability, the Frank Gore situation, I would put Matt Forte at the top of my list based on the fact he's kind of snuck his way onto waivers. With the injury, I'd put Darkwa above him, Darkwing Duck himself. Launchpad told me to pick him up.
Ooh.
Wayne Gallman, I would still put above him. I'd put Wendell Smallwood above him.
3 of those 4, I have no problem taking above Marlon Mack. The Smallwood, Forte, Darkwa, I like. Gallman, I can't get behind that. I think he's going to be the backup here, and he has not impressed me the way that Darkwa has.
Mike, why don't you weigh in on your favorite running back pickups this week?
I would agree that Darkwa and Matt Forte would be at the top of my list. Pagano, man. Chuck Pagano, it's so frustrating to watch Marlon Mack for this team be electric. And he got 22 yards, and then I know he lost 4 yards on a run. But
get off the field.
That's what you're going to get with Marlon Mack. When you have these guys who are crazy athletic and want the home run, and you're not going to give them consistent carries, they're going to try and hit the home run every time they're on the field to earn more playing time. Which, I mean, it's this vicious cycle then because then you get the -4. You got to play him. You have to play Marlon Mack, especially with Robert Turbin being out. So he's likely 3rd on my list behind Darkwa Forte. Maybe
Deion
Smallwood. But Deion Lewis he's just as unpredictable to me as Mike Gillislee.
A report came out last week that Terrence West is going to miss more than just last week. Does that make Alex Collins? Does that put a premium on Alex Collins as a pickup as well?
Alex Collins is the clear backup there. He is not the goal line back. He's not the 2-minute drill back. He is the backup. However, he has been a startable, reliable, middle of the pack type of running back. If you need a flex option, you've got garbage there. If you were to pick up Deion Lewis, Deion Lewis, I agree, is completely unpredictable. I don't want to start him. If I pick up Alex Collins, I put him out there. I feel like I'm confident, in about 7 points in a standard league. I think he could put together, 70 yards, which is pretty good. He had 74 yards this last game.
I guess it's worth mentioning in that earlier category where McFadden and Alfred Morris were, if Javorius Allen is available in your league, Buck Allen.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a 76% owned right now. He would be somebody to look at. Handcuff check.
I would say, and make sure you check on Robert Kelly.
Absolutely.
He's being dropped. He's owned in more than 50% of leagues right now. And
not owned users.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, he's available in more than 50% of leagues. He hasn't played in a couple weeks. P. Ryan has been fine. He's not Rob Kelly, though. Rob Kelly, once
he has the job back, it's his job. I mean, once he's healthy,
and I think
the Redskins will.
I think he's healthy this week.
They'll go with Robert Kelly, no doubt about it.
So, in actuality, when we're talking about this, Robert Kelly would be my top running back out of all the guys we've already talked about.
Yeah, if he's
I agree
out
with
there,
that.
I
If he's
agree.
out there, yeah. What is he about? 50% right now?
Yeah, 44% owned in Yahoo.
Yeah, so handcuff watch.
How much would you spend on Robert Kelly?
I'd spend 15.
Yeah, I'd say 15 plus. That's exactly the number I was thinking of.
I think it's fair.
Handcuffs. I think one of the most important handcuffs to pick up right now is Chris Ivory.
Yes.
He's looked very good this
Well,
year in his
we still
limited
need
action.
news on Fournette's ankle injury.
Right. It says he's fine. Says he could have gone back in the game.
Okay.
No, he
But-
didn't go. Look, everything on that looks good to me. He did not even go to the locker room
Right.
on that injury. He just came to the sideline. They just taped his ankle again, stood on the sideline, waited to go back in. They didn't need to.
Yeah, completely
Okay.
agree. I think Fournette is fine. But we've already seen this year a couple of re-injuries of ankles. So, if he had a problem, I would at least pick up Ivory. He's looked good. You've got Derrick Henry still available in, over 30% of leagues.
Yeah.
What about Jamal Charles? He was more involved.
That's a three-headed
No,
monster
it got worse there.
Yeah.
It got worse with Devontae Booker putting up 10 fantasy points, playing third down back.
Matt Breida?
He's just a handcuff.
But if you're the Gore owner, you need to own Matt Breida.
Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde.
Oh,
You,
did I
you
say
put,
Gore?
You
Yeah.
put Frank Gore back on the 49ers.
Welcome back to 2006.
Can I jump in, guys?
No.
No, moving along. Tight end. All right.
Just while we're talking handcuffs. Can you just talk about handcuff strategy at this point in the season? Has it
Sure.
is it
I was
changing?
about to, Brooks.
Is it changing
I was
right now?
I was just about to.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. No, look, when we bring them up casually here in the waiver wire, but what you're looking for now is as you move and progress towards the playoffs, that's the time that we always say the handcuffs are more valuable and more important. It's not the beginning of the year. It's not grabbing somebody else's handcuff and wasting a bench spot to try to, snake them away and hope for an injury. It's ensuring the backfield for a valuable piece of your team. So Matt Breida is the perfect example where Carlos Hyde, not only has he been injury-prone in his career, but he's also a player that you don't know what Kyle Shanahan's going to do. You don't know what this team's going to do. With
It's been nicked up this year already.
well, and look, you have C.J. Beathard now as the quarterback. They're looking to the future. Is it correct that they've lost all of their games by 3 points?
Or less, I
Ooh,
think.
I don't know.
I think they've set a new record for the most games consecutively lost by 3 points.
It's really not fair. You look at
Congratulations.
San Francisco.
It's like Jason's fantasy team.
I quit
no,
again.
So the past 5 games, they lost by 2, 3, 3, 2, 3.
Okay. Maybe it's 3 or less most consecutive.
That probably means
Very impressive.
they are better than people are assuming. It's not like they've got the same record as the Browns. And so you go, they're bottom of the basement. They've
Right.
been in every single game with, an opportunity to win.
Anything to add to the handcuff discussion there?
No, I agree with you that we're in week 7 now. This is the time when you got that strong record. You're preparing your team to be ready for that playoff run. And that's when the time I'm putting high value handcuffs on the bench. And now that's
James Conner.
You have to use the information we have through 7 weeks to make the assumption of who the handcuff is, because there's times when you think you know who it is, and then you're wrong. See Nile Davis from years ago when all of a sudden Sharkhandrick West was the guy to own. So you may think you know who it is. You could be wrong. And there's also then backups who just have little to no value if they actually go in. So all of those things have to factor in to a handcuff that I'm going to stash on my bench.
All right, let's talk tight ends, all right? The probably owned guys, but you need to check your waiver wire just in case they're there. To me, those guys, it's Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Heck yeah.
Another impressive week. The stat line even betrayed the reality because he should have had 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
Cameron Brate, Hunter Henry. Cameron Brate's been incredible.
Those guys are they're very owned. But
Those two are very owned.
they-
ASJ's about 63% right now.
It should be 100%. I mean, he's on pace for 92 receptions.
yeah, he's a tight end 1.
Yeah, fair enough. But the main pickups for this week, if you're looking at tight end, streamability, players that have been playing well, Have we ignored talking about Ed Dickson for too long?
Well, we've talked about him. He got 8 targets last week.
I guess you guys did. I was out that week.
He was inches. He was inches away from a couple of other big plays. I certainly think he is in the mix of those waiver guys that you can pick up and play because he gets enough targets and he's getting them downfield. You weren't happy with this last week, 4 for 38 from Ed Dickson. Going forward, I would be willing to pick him up. I'm not excited. A guy I'm excited about that I think probably has about the same floor, but his upside is much, much higher, is actually George Kittle.
Oh, Kittles and bits.
Kittles and bits. George Kittle has looked good for 2 weeks in a row.
I heard that bit on last week's show. The dog food. That was nice.
He also got 8 targets this last week, but he's going – he played with Beathard in college. They have a rapport already. So, you've now got he's not just this rookie tight end that's trying to figure things out. It's like he could be a safety blanket for Beathard going forward. I like George Kittle. I liked him before the change of quarterback. I like him even a little bit more now after the change of quarterback.
Yeah, the one thing is San Francisco, and one of the things you're looking at for tight ends in general is you want to put yourself in a position where the targets are always going to be there. In San Francisco, this is a team that they've lost. They're going to be in a position to have to throw the ball. I believe last week against Washington, I think it was 47 passing attempts from San Francisco quarterbacks in that game. That's what you want to see. You want to see opportunity. It's a very interesting take. I didn't know they went to college together. I missed that.
Now, what about the newly instated Mr. Very Necessary Nick O'Leary from Buffalo?
Love it.
Everyone has completely forgotten about him because they were on the bye week. He is the replacement for Charles Clay. When Clay went down, we're talking week 5, 6 targets, 5 for 54. Tyrod Taylor is leaning heavily on the tight end position. I mean, if you see like a guy who's not getting playing time, immediately 5 for 54, that's pretty impressive.
Nick O'Leary, pick him up, play him this week.
Nick O'Leary or Ed Dickson?
Nick O'Leary.
Nick O'Leary or Ryan Griffin?
Nick O'Leary.
You guys are very – well, Ryan Griffin's on bye, so I wouldn't play him.
Okay, sure. That's a fair point. Okay, so Nick O'Leary or Ben Watson?
Nick O'Leary. That's how I see it.
You guys are all over him.
There's just
the offensive scheme.
Tyrod Taylor's going to have to throw the ball to someone. You have Zay Jones, who's done nothing, and he always utilizes his tight end. And the matchup against Tampa Bay is not a bad one.
You'd play O'Leary over Croft, who now has the job the rest of the year in Cincinnati.
I was going to bring up Croft.
Not
interesting.
Not necessarily. Croft is right in that same mold.
But Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's the issue. Is on the road in Pittsburgh. Bad matchup for tight ends.
See the Tomb Raider.
Oh, that's good. I was hoping to get on some Croft macaroni and cheese, but the Tomb Raider's way better.
All right. Mike enjoyed that one very much.
Tip of the cap. Tip of the cap to you, good
sir. O'Leary is somebody to pay attention to. Look, every year this happens. Last year it was Jack Doyle out of nowhere.
Baby hands.
Baby hands Jack Doyle.
He's very available as well.
He was 7 for 50 and a touchdown.
I'm giving him crap, but he's worth picking up.
Yeah, Jack Doyle's good. And what about Austin Hooper? Highly drafted guy. Has looked really good the last 2 weeks. A lot of targets.
Highly drafted by who?
But in the NFL.
By the Atlanta Falcons. Second-round pick, I believe.
Gotcha.
So he's looked good 2 games in a row. Now, Mohamed Sanu might be coming back. Will that, do you think that Austin Hooper stays involved in the passing game?
This week,
when
yes.
Sanu comes back, is it over for Hooper?
It's likely over once Sanu is back. But this week, I'm perfectly fine.
You don't
picking
want
him up and streaming him.
You don't want to grab him and then have him hoop in his big boy pants.
Oh no!
You don't want to be in that situation.
You
know what?
We bringing the fire.
We should talk quarterbacks.
All right.
Full stream ahead.
Remember Mark Duper from the Miami Dolphins? You don't remember him? He was one of Dan Marino's biggest targets. He really belongs on this show. Full stream ahead. We're looking for streaming quarterback options in week number 7, and we've got them. We've got options. Who do you got, Mike?
The options, this is not the best week for streaming quarterbacks. I believe Jason Jason has the best one. Who, luckily, he is widely available. So I like Jason's pick here. But I'm going with Jared Goff against the Arizona Cardinals. The Rams have been putting up numbers, and the Arizona pass defense is not what it was in past years.
Patrick Peterson has a groin injury. He's supposed to play, but that's
quad,
still
right?
a quad injury.
Yeah.
Sorry, supposed to play. This game's in London, by the way, so both teams have traveled over there. But he's a little bit hampered. You saw him come off the field and Mike Evans get a deep ball. The Cardinals are thinking about a switch at cornerback on the other side now.
Yeah,
benching Justin Bethel.
Yes,
for Traymon Williams. So interesting play. It'd be tough for me to start Goff, but
it certainly is.
It's a week.
It's a tough week.
It's a week that is tough to stream. So Mike mentioned Jason's guy. I love Jason's guy. He was the guy that stood out to me. Go for it, Jay.
Yeah, speaking of Nick O'Leary will be catching the passes from Tyrod Taylor, who plays much better at home because of his rushing value and the stupidity of quarterbacks getting so much more points for rushing yards than they do for passing yards. I will never get off of that
But here's the thing, Jason. If they rush for 10 yards, then they've gained 10 yards of offense.
Right, but if they pass for 10 yards.
For 20, yeah, but then if they pass for 25, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Anyways, the point is.
Digress.
Yes,
Back to Tampa.
Tyrod Taylor,
he's home against Tampa.
His floor is very high because of his rushing, especially when he is at home. He's at home against Tampa Bay. It's been a great matchup. He's always been one of those guys at home where his floor is high and his ceiling is – a top 5 quarterback. He can rush touchdowns in. His upcoming schedule as well is so great, where he is the type of streamer where you're going to pick him up to play him this week, and you can
he'll be on the list next week. More than likely.
You're gonna leave him on your roster, and you'll play the matchups from your roster with another quarterback. He's got Tampa Bay and Oakland at home in back-to-back weeks. Then the New York Jets, New Orleans at home. 2 more games against New England this year, which apparently is a great matchup, and the Colts. That's all coming up. The Colts at home, Miami at home. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, really like picking him up right now. I know he doesn't have the greatest options, but he's going to be safe and a high upside. You can get him off waivers. For all you that lost Aaron Rodgers, he's
an option.
He's an option.
No doubt about it. Blake Bortles is my streamer of the week. I hate saying all those words in that order. Blake Bortles takes on Indianapolis. Look, we don't know whether Fournette's going to be limited in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even banking on that for this stream. The reality is the Colts, they haven't given up less than 20 fantasy points to a quarterback the entirety of the year. And so Blake Bortles, it's out there. This is an opportunity, I think, for him to just maybe he finds Marquise Lee, maybe it's somebody else, but I think a touchdown or 2 is in his future this week. So I think you could do worse. And like Mike said, I mean, the options, they're not great this week. You've got Andy Dalton out there. He's playing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been shutting people down. You got Trevor Siemian out there, but he's missing some weapons. You've got Jacoby Brissett. He's got Jacksonville. I mean,
it's the newbies.
I mean, and then Brett Hundley. I want to play the New Orleans D this week.
I was going to say we need to talk quickly about defenses, but the newbie quarterbacks, Brett Hundley, although the Saints have looked far more devastating on the defense in recent weeks, and then Beathard against the Dallas Cowboys. That's a plus match.
I wouldn't play either in any way, shape, or form.
You wouldn't play the New Orleans?
I'd play the New Orleans D.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry. We're back on.
Yeah, I was just finishing the quarterbacks, and now we will talk defenses.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would play defenses against the young quarterback.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Sorry.
I would play New Orleans. I would play Dallas. And despite my horrific, devastating loss last night on the back of the Tennessee Titans, I would also pick up and stream the Titans defense once again. I believe they take on the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, they do. The Bills, we talked about, Tyrod gets to play the Buccaneers. That means the Bills' defense gets to play the Buccaneers. So I like that. I like that matchup a lot. Chargers versus Denver, maybe. Maybe.
I like the Saints against the Packers.
Yeah.
I like the Panthers this week. I don't see them on this list, but they play
because they're probably very owned.
They're 50% owned, and they're not. They have
really.
Yeah, they have not been a good defense this year.
Interesting.
They absolutely have not been a great fantasy defense. Yeah, they just got torched by Carson Wentz in a game that we all expected them to do better.
To be fair, they were short fielded multiple times.
Still, if you look at them as a fantasy defense, they play Chicago though this week. I really like that matchup. Seattle, if they were dropped because of the bye week, they're going to be on your waiver wire. There's a 90% chance they're on the waiver wire. So I would be looking at Seattle.
That's a very high chance.
There's a higher
there's a 60%
there's
chance.
a 60%
I'm pretty
chance.
sure we know the percentage.
Well, it's not in here, but yeah.
Just saying.
So I'm just look
On the bye. No, there's a
they
lot of
were
people.
on the bye this week. I believe they have the Giants in New York. The Giants have no players.
Yeah,
There's a ceiling for that Giants offense, and while they won last week, that was what did they have, a defensive touchdown, and then they had one other passing touchdown, and that was it. So just another team to keep in mind. So
okay. Seattle, just looking at Yahoo, Seattle is owned in 93%. So there's a 90% chance they are owned.
They still
you
have
you had the number right.
Do you believe in them as an elite fantasy defense?
Seattle?
I mean, they traveled to Tennessee, got shellacked. They've kind of underwhelmed in a couple other matchups.
Yeah, I'm still loving Seattle. I think they've got the personnel, and they've shown me enough. That one game, every team has bad games. I still believe in the Seattle defense.
You don't think the Giants take them out at home this week?
No, I don't.
We thought the Broncos would manhandle the Giants.
Darkwood Doc. Maybe he gets it done.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, that is it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Check out draft.com/ballers if you want to play some DFS with us. It's been very, very fun to play with people on draft all season long. Quick update on the bet from last week. Mike, did you beat Jason?
My goodness. There was so much pain and agony for Jason in the opening segment. I forgot to pour it on. To just put the cherry on top. And the cherries Jason will not be eating.
No.
Because he lost the lunch bet, and we went hand in hand as we found that the translation is mono,
Imano,
whatever it is, head to head, and Jason lost.
Yeah,
handedly.
I just needed you to not get more than like 0.3 points from Jacoby.
Did you at least win in the listener league?
I won everywhere else, but I did not lose.
What
I
is
did not
everywhere
win
else? You lost in Dynasty. You lost in League of Record.
In the Riders
you lost
League.
in Draft.
I won in the Riders
everywhere
League.
else.
I won in Scotty Fishbowl. I won in the Listener League.
We won in Scotty Fishbowl.
Oh, I see where you're going.
All right.
All right, that is it for today's episode.
We're all winners.
We're going to have to pay out some water bets, too. We're overdue on a couple of those. So.
I'm
Do I get 2 waters for
doubling up the over-under? No.
All right.
All right, that is it. Brooks, thanks for everything you do back there, buddy.
I do what I can.
All right, take care. See you later.
We will see you tomorrow, Foot Clan. Thank you for joining the show. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.